Yes. Hello, all of you. Since we have completed our discussion on the first part of the topic society in our syllabus, that's the retrosynthetic analysis. Now we will move on to a much easier topic. Easier, I mean, compared to retrosynthetic analysis. I'm not telling this is the easiest topic on earth. Compared to retrosynthetic analysis, at least according to me, I personally feel this is a bit easier. That is phase transfer catalysis. And in this presentation, we will understand the basics, principles, and the necessity for phase transfer catalysis. Basically, what is the necessity for phase transfer catalysis? Now, if we look at the way the organic reactions are conducted, we all know that chemistry is a subject which happens inside solutions. Whether be it inorganic reactions or organic reactions, all these most of the reactions are conducted in solution phases. Although there are some very important examples limited in occurrence are the solid phase reactions, vapor phase reactions. Otherwise, almost we can say exclusively chemistry is a subject conducted inside solutions. So when we come to organic chemistry, and we know these organic compounds are basically slow reactive ones. So we have to make a solution and then apply a lot of conditions, sometimes heating, addition of catalyst, all those. But in any case, solvent is required for a reaction, for an organic reaction. So it can be solvent, organic solvent. Often, most of the times, usually we have organic liquids functioning as solvents in organic reactions. And we have some common solvents which we use as reaction media. These include ethyl acetate, tetrahydrofuran, DCM, dichloromethane, chloroform, and ethers, and sometimes DMSO. These are all common organic solvents which we use. And we also have a range of organic solvents. And what about the choice of solvent for your reaction? It depends on the polarity of the solvent, is it not? So whether your reaction requires a polar medium or a non-polar medium or relatively some moderately polar medium, it's all up to you. And in fact, when I'm telling solvent, it is not single solvent. It can be a mixture of two solvents even. That is usually done for the modulation of the polarity of the solvents. So that's four. So solvents come with very varying degrees of polarity. For example, you take ether, pet ether, diethyl ether, they are very non-polar. But if you take compounds like DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxides, or NMP in that sense, N-methyl pyrrolidine. So these are all polar solvents, but organic in nature. This is very important. Although these are all polar, they are organic in nature. So reactions are conducted in these solvents. So usually aqueous medium is not generally applied to organic reactions. Why? Because of the pretty basic reason that organic compounds are repelled by water. They're all hydrophobic, lipophilic, basically. So organic reactions choose organic medium. Aqueous medium is generally not applied. But it so happens sometimes that some reactions contain one or more reactants, at least one reactant. Let us take an example. Let us take it in this way. One reactant minimum, sometimes, not all reactions. Some reactions, they are ionic in nature. For example, you are treating an organic compound with a salt. And you know what is the nature of salt? They're all water soluble. So in that sense, now you have two reactants. And when I say reactant, they can be any component of the reaction, not just reactant. It can be catalysts also sometimes. You use polar catalysts, catalysts which are ionic compounds. So then how do you dissolve these compounds in organic reaction medium? Not possible. So, and your reactant or organic in nature, they are not soluble in aqueous solvents. So now you come to this fix basically. Aqueous medium is now inevitable, but then a tricky situation you are faced with. What is the tricky situation? That the solvent choice becomes cumbersome. Whether you have to dissolve salts, take aqueous layer, or dissolve your reactant substrates, take organic layers. So which one should you use? Because any one type of solvent you choose, it will exclude at least it may exclude one reactant component, one reaction component. So in that case, the reaction becomes cumbersome. So what is the way out? What is the solution for this? The solution is combine the phases. You take both organic and aqueous phase and conduct the reaction. But then this becomes like counterproductive sometimes, right? So how do you do this? Because your salts will lie in or we are very comfortably dissoluble in aqueous medium, and your other reactants, example a reagent which is ionic, it goes into water, and your substrate which are organic, it is in the organic solvent, and they are not mutually mixing with each other. Unless they're mixing, unless they're colliding, unless they're coming in contact, you cannot have a reaction. So there are some very crude methods of overcoming this problem. One is continuously agitating the mixture. You know what do you mean by this? Continuously agitating it. You go on stirring it rapidly so that the tiny droplets of water and this oil, I mean the organic layer, they mix and somehow become a homogeneous mass. I'm not telling soluble homogeneous mass. At least some micelles are formed sometimes. Tiny droplets which are going through one another, at least, if not mixing. So in that case, you are increasing the chances of collision of your ionic reagent with your non-aqueous reactant. Sometimes the reaction goes in this way, but not always. And you know, this very crude method. So whenever a method is not that is crude and not that sophisticated, you have the problem with its reproducibility. Is it not? Next time you want to repeat that reaction, what is the condition you have to maintain? How much I have to stir? Previously, I would have stirred using Amit. I would have stirred. So these are the problems. Therefore, in this scenario, in this background, what is the background? Now I have to conduct a reaction where reagent is ionic or a catalyst is ionic, whereas our substrate is organic. So how to conduct that reaction? Which solvent I have to choose? Which phase I have to choose? For such, in this background, or phase transfer catalysis comes into picture. Okay, so look at this reaction. This was the reaction I was talking about. It's an example. You have a alkyl chloride, and you see this long hydrophobic chain, right? CH2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is octyl chloride. 1 octyl chloride to be specific. And this octyl chloride, looking at its structure, you can tell it is very hydrophobic. Is it not? Because all those compounds which have number of carbon atoms more, even in aromatic or aliphatic, they become insoluble in water. So in aqueous medium, they are repelled. But the reagent is sodium cyanide, which is ionic. It's a salt, sodium cyanide. No, sodium is so ionic. Sodium salts are so much ionic. So now I have to conduct a displacement reaction, SN2 reaction, with cyanide displacing chloride to get our nitrile, octyl nitrile as my product. So in such a case, how to do this reaction? Do this, no problem. If you do this directly, adding sodium cyanide, water, and maintaining a temperature, reaction duration, absolutely no result. Product is not formed at all because your NaCN sits in water. Your octyl chloride will be in your organic solvent, so it doesn't go at all. But if this reaction gets an addition of salt, a phosphonium salt basically. Let us see the nature of this phosphonium salt later. Just for the time being, just understand this is a phosphonium salt. P plus Br minus. So I am just indicating the charge centers. P plus and Br minus. So the phosphonium salt addition, how much? 1.5 mole percent takes the reaction to 94% completion. There was no reaction at all without this. Now, as soon as you add this, the reaction is almost 100% complete. 94% is very good result in an organic reaction. And even the acceleration comes into picture. Reaction speed is accelerated. So, what is this behaving now? As a catalyst, is it not? So, why do you call this as behaving as a catalyst? Although in stricter sense, you cannot call this catalyst. The mechanism of its action we will see later. But it has done the job of a catalyst. It has increased the rate of the reaction several folds to get you the product very quickly, as well as a very good result of 94%, yield of 94%. Then what has this done basically? So why we should study this more now? Because the addition of this has remarkably changed the reaction's destiny. So we should study this a bit. If we study this a bit, we see the structure like this. We have a phosphorus atom connected to 4 alkyl chains. And you know, phosphorus is trivalent, like your nitrogen. A connection of one more group makes it positively charged. You can balance this charge with a counter ion bromide. So the name of this compound would be tetrabutyl phosphonium bromide. Now, if you look at the structure a bit carefully, you see this structure has 2 striking features. One, its polar atom phosphorus, and non-polar tails. If we call this tails, now let us call this a polar head, and this a non-polar tail. So what is this reminding us of? Don't you think this is a bit like a surfactant molecule? Okay. Anyways, I will not elaborate on what surfactant means. You can check it out yourself later. Anyways, so this is having both polar group and non-polar group in the same molecule. Such molecule is behaving as a catalyst in this reaction. And now, if we later, now we will look into the mechanism of action of this. We see that what it has basically done is, in essence, in the nutshell, what this has basically done. This has transferred the cyanide ion, Cn minus ion, from aqueous phase to the organic phase. That is the role this has played. So that is why the name phase transfer. Strictly, there should have been phase transfer agent. They should have been phase transfer agent. But why catalyst? Because I told you, right? Because the rate is dramatically increased by the addition of this agent. Therefore, somehow conveniently this is called catalysis. Not technically so, conveniently this is called catalysis. So this becomes phase transfer catalyst. And this is the topic of our discussion, hence phase transfer catalysis. Now, what is the phase transfer catalysis system? What are the things you need? First, you require 2 phases. So, you know, the way phases are defined thermodynamically, right? 2 phases which are immiscible with each other, separated by a boundary. These are called phases, separate phases. In fact, these 2 phase systems, basically we are dealing with 2 phase systems, are not very uncommon. You can just take oil and water, mix them, allow them to stand. Oil layer floats on water. So you have 2 phases, oil phase, which is called an organic phase, and the water phase, which is called liquid phase, aqueous phase. So you definitely require 2 phases. If you want to set up a phase transfer catalysis system, you require 2 phases. So once you require 2 phases, one component of your reaction, one or more, should be dissolved in aqueous phase. Some other components of your reaction should be dissolved in organic phase. Usually the organic phase solvent, we choose chloroform or some hydrocarbons like diethyl ether. That's what I was talking about. Sometimes even hexane is not that good solvent. Anyways, and You have an organic reagent or a reactant which is soluble in organic solvent. Only. This is very important. Only. Why only? It should not be having a distribution independently between these two phases. It should be soluble only in organic phase. It should not distribute between aqueous and organic phase. And you have an inorganic reagent, usually salts, NaOH, NaCl, KCl, Ki, KOH, these things, and even sodium cyanide, which are soluble only in the aqueous phase. Again, only. It should not distribute in organic phase also. Like there are some salts. You have benzoic acid. It is polar, but it distributes between aqueous and organic phase if given an opportunity. Anyways, but that should not happen. Exclusively soluble in aqueous phase. The other thing should be exclusively soluble in organic phase. If you set up these two things, it is not a phase transfer catalysis at all. You have to add this phase transfer catalyst. That is what the example I showed, the phosphonium salt. A catalyst soluble in both phases. This is very important. Now a catalyst is soluble in both phases. Now how this catalyst is driving the reaction forward is what we are going to see now. If you look at the mechanism of action of phase transfer catalysis, and this was developed by a worker called Mukasa. You see this figure, organic phase and aqueous phase. And the boundary between organic phase and aqueous phase is called an interface. In fact, the boundary between any two phases is called an interface. Not just here. In other contexts also interface is used. But here also we use interface. Interface is also referred to as phase boundary. So now you see what are the compounds which are soluble in aqueous phase. Now, what is the reaction I am doing? The same reaction. This is the reaction. I have an RCl. I am reacting with sodium cyanide, and I have to get RCN. So, where is your sodium cyanide? In the aqueous phase. Where is your RCl? In the organic phase. Because this is an organic compound and this is ionic compound. They are in different phases, and you see there is no distribution of RCl in aqueous phase. There is no distribution of NaCN in organic phase. They are mutually exclusive. And now the phosphonium chloride is the phosphonium chloride, which you add to the aqueous phase, has distribution both in organic and aqueous. You see, this is the equilibrium between distribution of the phase transfer PTC, phase transfer catalyst in aqueous phase as well as organic phase. Once it distributes, now this is very interesting. If you have only phase transfer catalyst with its counter ion distributing, there is no interest in this. But as it is distributing, you see, it is also taking NaCN with it. And you have, not NaCN, sorry, it is also taking Cn minus ion with it. And you have one more salt. Although the cationic part of the salt is same, the anionic part is different. What is the anionic part here? Cl minus. What is the anionic part here? Cn minus. So now you have two distributions coming into picture. One is the native form of the salt you have added, phosphonium chloride distributing, phosphonium cyanide also distributing. Now, how did you arrive at phosphonium cyanide? Because when you add phosphonium chloride into aqueous phase, the aqueous phase already contains sodium chloride. Don't forget that. So there can be a reaction between Cl minus ion and phosphonium. There can be a reaction between phosphonium chloride and Cn minus ion, giving rise to phosphonium cyanide salt. And now it also distributes between organic phase and aqueous. So because of this distribution, what has happened? Somehow, whatever the reason, whatever distribution, what are the factors, our Cn minus, which was not there at all before the addition of phase transfer catalyst in the organic phase, is now present in the organic. So once Cn minus is present in the organic phase, it can do a substitution reaction, SN2 substitution basically, and give us RCN, which is our product. And this distribution is so rapidly distribution, all equilibrium is set up rapidly, and then Cn minus is taken to the reaction and you have RCN. So once the Cn minus is sequestered as RCN, the concentration of the Cn minus decreases. So you know the equilibrium principles, right? Chemical equilibrium principles. So always chemical equilibrium are dynamic. They can shift either in the right or left directions, forward, reverse direction, to adjust a change. So what is the change here? The fall in the concentration of Cn minus. So what happens? This whole equilibrium is cyclic. We see this. So if Cn minus is used and concentration falls, more Cn minus goes into the organic phase to maintain the equilibrium. And then again, so if the Cn minus go in this way, the Cl minus should come here. Is it not? So this ionic mobility is there. Although the equilibrium is there, this is dynamic. So ionic mobility is there between organic and aqueous. Which ionic mobility? Cn minus and Cl minus. Anyway, Cl minus is only a spectator ion here. Hope you know the meaning of spectator ion. So we need not worry too much about spectator ion. The reactive ion is Cn minus. So we get a reaction. This is our reaction, RCl and Cn minus, giving us RCn plus Cl minus. Done. Now, this phase transfer agent, phosphonium chloride, working of phase transfer agent. Catalyst, because this is conducting the reaction at a very rapid pace, or very rapid very rapid pace. Now, I just have once more the whole mechanism, but rather more pictorically, visually attractive. This is my reaction. Ry plus X minus should give Rx plus Y minus. But my Ry is in organic phase, X minus is in aqueous phase. Now, how to bring X minus into organic phase? For that, phase transfer catalyst is required. Look at this. Organic phase, aqueous phase. In my aqueous phase, I have my X minus, which forms a complex with phase transfer catalyst, goes into the organic phase, and X minus does the displacement reaction Rx and Y. Now, you know, this is called ferrying. Okay, so what do you mean by ferrying? If you look at the overall action of PTC, it is simply transferring your X minus, example in this, it is simply transferring your Cn minus to the organic. Okay, and this concentration is also very important. How much Cn minus has to be transferred for the reaction to happen? It goes on building in concentration until the reaction starts. Once the reaction starts, the concentration of Cn minus is maintained steady in the organic phase. There are a lot of kinetics, physical chemistry of this aspect. We will not go into details of that. We only look at the organic chemistry aspect. So that is what. Now I have one more interesting example of the application of phase transfer catalyst. In this case, I'll tell you the interest in this reaction. Why this in the context of PTC, why this reaction is interesting. We have a SN2 reaction again, OH displacing Cl minus to give an ether. And how to do this reaction? There is no problem. Both are organic in nature. Is it not? This is not NaCl we are, this is not NaOH we are using. Instead, organic alcohol, which is hydrophobic, it is soluble in organic. This is also soluble in organic solvent. Then why use phase transfer catalyst in this case? At the first look, it appears the phase transfer catalyst is not required. There is an ionic reagent in this. Both are non-polar reagent. There is no polar reagent. But the reaction is interesting because the reactant contains acetal group, which is acid sensitive. So if you have the reaction done in organic medium, the byproduct is HCl. Is it not? Of course, plus HCl I should have written here. Anyways, the byproduct is HCl, and HCl cleaves the acetyl group. So then you have unnecessary side reactions. So to not to lose acetyl group, what you should do? All the released HCl should be immediately neutralized. Therefore, you should add a base to this reaction. And what is that base? Usually NaOH. But here comes the problem. The NaOH is aqueous soluble, water soluble, insoluble in organic layer. So to carry OH minus into the organic phase, we require phase transfer catalyst, tertiary butyl ammonium sulfate. Okay. Now, how is this done? Look at the mechanism. And this is what I told you. The actual surfactant action of phase transfer catalyst. You see, the polar head is in the aqueous layer. The non-polar tail is in the organic layer. The polar head has OH minus as its counter ion because you have added NaOH and then counter phase. So OH minus is slowly sequestered, slowly ferried inside organic layer because of phase transfer catalyst. And now OH minus does its catalyst action. Okay. So in this case, in the previous case, a reactant was aqueous soluble, organic solution insoluble, solvent insoluble. In this reaction, catalyst is aqueous polar, aqueous soluble, organic phase insoluble. Therefore, either your reactant, reagent, or catalyst. Out of these three, anyone can be only aqueous soluble, not soluble in organic solvent. In such reactions, you should use PT, phase transfer catalyst. Now, what are the advantages of phase transfer catalyst? The faster reactions and higher yields we have discussed already. Fewer byproducts. Of course, we can analyze this reaction. There is no byproduct at all. Acetal ring is not clean. So fewer byproduct. This is a very important advantage. Expensive of dangerous solvents which dissolve all the reactants in one phase are excluded. If there was no phase transfer catalyst, we could not have conducted this reaction. Then what would you have done? You have gone for a single phase system. And then you should have chosen a solvent. It could have been expensive because it should dissolve NaCN, polar, as well as non-polar octyl chloride. So the design, the conceptualization and synthesis of that solvent itself would be expensive. And sometimes these are dangerous also because, there are several health hazards caused by organic solvents. So what is the best way? You should minimize the use of organic solvents in reactions. And when you do this, it becomes something, it is aligned with green chemistry principles. One of the principles of green chemistry says that you should use as much water as possible as solvent, not organic solvents. The usage of organic solvents is discouraged in green chemistry principle. But what to do? Then I use organic compounds. They are not soluble in water. So how to conduct organic reactions in water? Because green chemistry principle encourages water use phase transfer catalyst. So you can conveniently use water as solvent. Okay. So, and then we should not limit the imagination or conceptualization of phase transfer catalyst only for oil and water system type. That means organic layer and aqueous layer type. You can have between any two phases. For example, it can be between liquid solid phase or liquid gas phase or something like gel gas phase, gel solid phase. Any two different phase. But the phase transfer catalyst will be different if it is solid liquid phase. Anyways, so which are some examples of phase transfer catalysts? Three sort of compounds are used as phase transfer catalysts typically, generally. One is quaternary ammonium salts. You see, I hope you know quaternary ammonium salt structures. It has 4 alkyl or aryl chains, nitrogen, so it carries a positive charge which is balanced by a counter ion. So this is what N-butyl, N-tertiary butyl ammonium. If it is bromine, bromide. You can have all same identical or mixed chains. TEBA is one common phase transfer catalyst, industrially prepared, used. And then phosphonium salts. One example which I had shown before, tertiary butyl phosphonium bromide. And this is tetraphenyl phosphonium bromide. There are one more class of phase transfer catalysts, which are crown ethers. Right? So, crown ethers have very broad application. They are also key players in host guest chemistry. It's also called what is that? Artificial something biomimetic chemistry. Biomimetic chemistry, host guest complexes, where potassium or sodium are selectively complexed based on the size of the ether cavity that you can use as phase transfer catalyst also. Or a cryptand. Say this is the cryptand. So what's the difference between crown ether and a cryptand? Crown ether has a single macrocycle to which our metal ion is coordinated. Cryptand has fused macrocycles and metal ion is coordinated to heteroatoms of both rings, macrocycles. In such case, it's called a cryptand. So these are all some common examples of phase transfer catalysts. So in the next class, we'll study more applications of this phase transfer catalyst for some specific organic reaction. Thank you.